You really gonna wear that, babe? Oh wait, I forgot. You don't need to impress anyone. You don't even have a job. Her voice echoed off the marble walls of our living room, and her little audience of friends, Samantha, Rachel, and Brittany, howled with laughter like they were watching a stand-up show. Madison was the star act. My wife. My queen once. Now, she was more like a venomous snake in a Gucci dress. I stood there, holding a glass of scotch, smiling like I didn't just get gut-punched in front of 3 women who worked under my name. Literally. None of them knew. Not one. Madison thought I was unemployed. Hell, she told them I was some washed-up loser living off her. And they believed her because I let her believe it too. Don't mind him, Madison smirked, adjusting her dress to show more thigh. He just watches YouTube videos all day and plays with his fantasy football teams. More giggles. Maybe one day he'll grow up and get a real job, or at least do something useful. Maybe fix the faucet he's been ignoring for 3 weeks. I took a sip and nodded slowly. This was it. I had planned the night differently. I was going to surprise her with a weekend getaway. Instead, she surprised me with public humiliation in my own damn home. What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the useless husband she just clowned was the silent owner of the exact marketing firm where all 4 of them worked. I bought it 2 years ago, under a holding group, and never made it public. Just collected profits and watched from the shadows. I didn't need attention. I needed peace. Until tonight. Because tonight, that peace died. My phone buzzed. A message from my assistant, Carla. One simple line. She's been seen at the Conrad again. Room 1607. Same guy. Same time. I froze. Again? That word hit me harder than her mockery. I had suspected something for weeks. The late-night yoga sessions. The girls' trips that suddenly turned into work retreats. The way she'd started locking her phone. The perfume on her body that didn't match anything in our house. I knew, deep down. But this confirmed it. And this time, I wasn't just going to drink and swallow my pride. I was going to burn her entire world down. I put my glass down, still smiling. Madison, I said, interrupting her story about how I once used a blender wrong and broke it. What now? She rolled her eyes, lips painted blood red. I want to show you something. Unless it's a job application, I'm not interested, she snapped. Her friends laughed again. Brittany even whispered, "Girl, you're savage." I reached into my pocket, pulled out 4 envelopes, and laid them on the table in front of each of them. What's this? Madison sneered. Open it, I said, locking eyes with her. She hesitated. But curiosity and ego always got the best of her. She opened hers first. Her face turned from smug to pale in 2 seconds flat. You're terminating me? Rachel gasped. Wait, what? What the hell is this? Samantha jumped up. Is this a joke? Fired. Who the hell do you think you are? I leaned forward, keeping my voice calm. Lethal. I'm your boss. Or rather, I was. I own the company. Every check you've cashed, signed under my name. You've been working for your favorite unemployed man this whole time. Silence. I looked at Madison. You told them I was broke. That I was a loser. You laughed at me. Mocked me. Disrespected me in front of your little fan club. But sweetheart, now you're all unemployed. Madison's hands trembled as she grabbed her purse. You can't do this. You're bluffing. I'm not. Ask HR in the morning. Oh wait, you no longer have access to your work email. Forgot. Rachel looked like she'd seen a ghost. You planned this. I chuckled. I've been watching. And now I'm acting. Madison's voice cracked. You're insane. This is over. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Oh no, Madison. This is just the beginning. Because the next step? Catching her in that hotel room. And I wasn't going alone. I drove to the Conrad Hotel like a man walking into his own execution, but smiling while doing it. Room 1607. Same guy. Same time. Carla never sent me bad intel. She was sharp, clinical, and loyal to a fault. When I hired her, I told her one thing. If anyone ever betrays me, find out before I do something stupid. She had never failed me. Tonight would be no different. The city lights blurred past me, but I wasn't really seeing them. My mind was racing. Flashes of Madison's laughter, her cruel jokes, the way she'd roll her eyes whenever I brought up anything meaningful. I kept trying to make excuses for her, telling myself marriage has rough patches, people get stressed, but no. She was just a heartless, manipulative little monster dressed in luxury and lies. I pulled into the underground parking garage and took the elevator straight up. The plan was simple. Catch them in the act. No yelling. No fists. No drama. Just cold, hard evidence. And a permanent goodbye. As I stepped into the hallway, the plush carpet muffled my footsteps. Everything looked too perfect. That five-star silence that hides the ugliest secrets behind polished doors. 1601. 1603. 1605. My heart started pounding. I stopped at 1607. Took a breath. Knocked once. Loud and clear. Silence. Then movement. Who is it? A man's voice called, low and unsure. I smiled. Gotcha. It's room service. You forgot your champagne, I said flatly, mimicking the hotel style. A pause. Then the handle turned. The door cracked open, and there he was. Dylan. 6-foot pretty boy. Gym body. No brain. The same guy I'd seen in old photos on her phone once. Labeled, don't open, private folder. She'd sworn he was just an old friend. Liar. He blinked at me in shock, shirtless, eyes wide. Wait, who the hell are you? I shoved the door open fully. Madison was behind him, wearing my favorite black lace lingerie. Her face went pale as chalk the second she saw me. Jason. What the F asterisk asterisk asterisk. I stepped inside, calm as ice. Don't stop on my account. Looks like you were having a hell of a night. Madison scrambled for the blanket. Dylan just stood there, frozen, caught between trying to run or play tough. I looked straight at her. You said yoga, remember? That's a hell of a downward dog. Jason, please, this isn't what it looks like. I laughed. Hard. Don't insult me. I'm standing right here. I'm watching it with my own eyes, Madison. Don't even try. She wrapped the blanket tighter and glared. Maybe if you had a real job. Maybe if you weren't so damn boring lately. Maybe I wouldn't have to come here. I blinked. There it was. No apology. No guilt. Just blame. She'd been cheating for months, and now it was my fault? Dylan muttered. Look, man, I didn't know she was married. I turned to him. You did. I saw the texts. The he doesn't deserve you messages. That just leave him already once. Don't lie now. He stayed quiet. Madison stood up, eyes wild. So what? You caught me. What now? You gonna cry about it? Go run back to your video games, loser. My jaw clenched, but I stayed calm. Because rage wasn't the weapon. Truth was, I already fired you, I said quietly. You and your friends. They're probably texting you right now. HR has your paperwork. Access gone. Benefits cut. Everything. Her face twisted. What? You're bluffing. Nope. You mocked the wrong man in the wrong house. And now you've lost everything. She screamed. Actually screamed. You bastard. You can't do this to me. I leaned in, just enough for her to hear. Watch me. I turned around, walked out, and let the door swing shut behind me. Revenge wasn't supposed to feel good. But right now, it felt perfect. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in my car across from the house we used to call ours, watching the porch lights flicker, knowing she'd come crawling back eventually. Not because she was sorry, but because women like Madison don't know how to survive without someone to leech off. It wasn't even about love anymore. Hell, I don't think it had been for years. It was about power, control, image. Madison needed someone to parade in front of her friends. Someone she could insult to look like the strong, sassy queen in her little reality show. Someone to hold her designer bags while she pretended she earned them. And now that someone had burned it all to the ground. At 3:14 a.m., my phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. I let it ring. She called again. Then again. By the fifth call, she switched to texting. Maddie. Jason WTF? Where are you? Maddie. You can't just disappear after doing this. Maddie. We need to talk. You're being immature AF. Immature? That word hit harder than expected. Immature. As if catching her in a hotel room with another man was my overreaction. As if firing her and her little crew of hyenas made me the villain. It was like she truly believed she was untouchable. By the time the sun started to rise, I had made my decision. I drove back to the house, packed up the last of my things, and left the keys on the kitchen counter with a single sticky note that read, You chose him. Now choose a lawyer. Then I walked out and didn't look back. It took her less than 24 hours to show up at my new apartment. I heard the knock first, then her voice, shrill and furious. Open the door, Jason. Don't play games with me. I didn't want to deal with her, but something in me needed to see her face one more time. Not for closure, for confirmation that she really was the venom I'd always suspected. I opened the door. She stood there in sunglasses, sweatpants, and yesterday's rage. Her makeup was smeared, and her hair looked like she'd fought a wind tunnel. For the first time in years, Madison didn't look like a goddess. She looked like a wreck. "You think this is funny?" she screamed. I folded my arms. "What exactly?" "Everything. You fired me, humiliated me, took everything. You're acting like some petty psycho." I raised an eyebrow. "You cheated on me. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. You mocked me, Madison. In front of your friends. In front of people I employed. You didn't just lie. You made me into a punchline. I was a joke to you." Her lips trembled. "It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. You didn't just betray me. You enjoyed it." She stepped inside without permission, pacing. "So what now? You think you're going to move on and live happily ever after? With who, Jason? You don't have anyone. You're just a bitter man with a bank account." I smirked. "And you're a bitter woman with nothing left to take." That hit her. Hard. I saw it in the way her mouth opened and closed, searching for a comeback. But there wasn't one. "You want to talk lawyers?" she snapped. "I already have one. And the prenup you begged me to sign when you thought I had no assets? It's ironclad." She froze. "You had me sign a prenup, knowing you were rich?" I nodded. "I knew what kind of woman you were the moment you flirted with the waiter at our engagement dinner. I hoped I was wrong, but you just proved me right." She stared at me like she didn't recognize the man standing in front of her. I didn't blame her, because the man she mocked, he was gone, and the one replacing him wasn't taking from anyone ever again. A week passed. No texts, no calls, just silence. It was the kind of silence that doesn't bring peace, more like the silence before a storm. I kept working, quietly, strategically, letting my lawyer handle the legal side, while I took care of what mattered more: my name, my dignity, and the pieces of my life she hadn't yet poisoned. Then, just like I predicted, she made her next move. I got a letter delivered to my office. Fancy envelope, heavy paper, gold trim. Inside was a handwritten note, because Madison believed drama always looked better in cursive. "Jason, you've embarrassed me. You've destroyed my career and reputation. I want to resolve this quietly. Let's meet, just the two of us. No lawyers. No shouting. You owe me that much. M." I read it 3 times. "You owe me that much." That sentence stuck in my head like a needle. I owed her, after everything she did, but still I agreed. Because sometimes, to kill a snake, you have to let it slither a little closer. We met at the rooftop bar where we'd had our 3rd date. Back when I still thought she was real. Back when she pretended to love beer and sarcasm and late-night pizza. Before she replaced all that with Prosecco, designer bags, and Instagram quotes about self-love. She arrived late, of course. Madison never did anything without an entrance. This time she wore a red dress, tight enough to scream desperation and expensive enough to make the waiters trip over themselves. "Jason," she said, sliding into the chair like she was auditioning for a soap opera. "You look tired." I smiled calmly. "You look overdressed for someone unemployed." She rolled her eyes. "Still petty, I see. And you're still fake." A long pause. Then, she leaned forward. "Look, I know things got messy, but we can fix this." I laughed in disbelief. "Fix what? My trust? My pride? The way you sold me out in front of strangers for a few cheap laughs?" "You made your point," she snapped. "You wanted to humiliate me, and you did. But now you're going too far. You're trying to erase me from everything." I leaned in. "No, Madison. I'm just erasing the infection. You lied, cheated, disrespected me for months. You used me. And the moment I stopped playing dumb, you started calling me the villain. You knew," she whispered. "You always knew I wasn't perfect. I never wanted perfect. I just wanted honesty. You couldn't even give me that." Her face twisted, but she caught herself, still trying to control the narrative, even in the last act. She tried one more angle. "We had good times," she said, suddenly softer. "You remember Maui? The nights we stayed up drinking and laughing in. And then you'd text Dylan while I was asleep?" She went quiet. "You think I didn't know?" I said, voice sharper now. "I saw it all. The photos. The secret apps. The way your phone always faced down. I even saw your group chat with the girls. How you called me the house cat and joked about keeping me tamed while you had your fun." Her eyes darted away. "You had me," I said. "You had someone who loved you, protected you, trusted you, and you turned me into a punchline. For a moment, just one damn second, I saw something behind her eyes. Maybe regret. Maybe just fear that her little world was cracking beyond repair. Then she said the line I'll never forget. You never knew how to handle a woman like me. I stood up, tossed a 50 on the table. You're right, I said. But now I do. I walked out. No drama. No slamming chairs. No shouting. Because the most powerful revenge is walking away from the mess like you never needed it to begin with. I thought that would be the end. But women like Madison don't vanish when the curtains fall. No, they claw their way backstage, break things, and demand a second act. 3 days after our rooftop closure, I got a call from HR. She showed up at the office. My stomach didn't twist. It clenched. She what? She came in like she still worked here. Tried to access her files. Claimed you made a mistake. When we told her she was terminated and escorted her out, she screamed you were having a breakdown and that you'd regret everything. That sounded about right. Madison was losing her grip on the world she thought she controlled, and she was going to make noise everywhere she could, especially now that her golden parachute was gone. So I prepared. I had Carla pull every recorded interaction, every nasty message she ever sent through company email, every HR complaint from employees who'd been bullied by her clique. I built a digital war chest. Not to use it, just to have it ready. Because Madison was spiraling. And people like her don't just fall. They try to drag you down with them. That night, I sat in my apartment with a drink in hand, replaying her voice in my head. You never knew how to handle a woman like me. She was right. I didn't. But I did now. And the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. I had spent years in a silent kind of prison. Not one with bars, but one with expectations. She wanted a husband who obeyed without question, who smiled in photos, laughed at insults, and handed over his wallet like a trophy. She wanted a man who'd let her cheat, lie, and twist reality so long as the illusion of the perfect couple stayed intact. But I wasn't a puppet, and she was never a queen. She was a parasite. I just never realized the chains I wore were custom-made by her sweet voice and fake affection. The next morning, I got another call. This time from Rachel, one of the 3 women who'd laughed the loudest at that awful dinner party. Her voice shook when she spoke. Jason, I didn't know. I frowned. Didn't know what? About Dylan. About all of it. I thought you were just lazy. That's what she told us. That you played video games all day and smoked weed. I couldn't help but laugh. That's what she told everyone. The truth was never part of her narrative. She's losing it, Jason. After you fired us, she's been unraveling. She's calling everyone. Threatening. Crying. Raging. I'm done with it. I'm done with her. I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry. There was a pause. You deserved better. I didn't respond right away. Because hearing it, finally, from someone who had once laughed at me, stung more than I expected. After we hung up, I stared out my window for a long time. The skyline looked cleaner now, less blurry. Like every lie she ever told was fading from the glass. I remembered the day I married her. The way she smiled in that white dress, clutching my hand like I was her whole world. And I wondered if, for a moment, it had all been real. If there was ever a version of her that loved me. But love doesn't humiliate. It doesn't betray. It doesn't leave you drowning while it watches from the shore. No, Madison never loved me. She loved the idea of being adored. And when I stopped worshiping her, she built a golden pedestal for someone else. Someone who gave her attention, but none of the substance. Now, that pedestal was in pieces. And I was the one walking away, free. The prison door had been open all along. I just never dared to walk through it. Until now. I knew it wasn't over. Madison was the type who didn't just lose. She had to make sure you felt her pain, even if she was the one who caused everything. The text came in while I was at lunch with a client. 3 words. Cold. Calculated. You'll regret this. I ignored it. Kept talking business like nothing was happening. But a storm was brewing in my gut. Not fear. Not anxiety. Anticipation. Because I knew Madison's version of revenge wouldn't be quiet. And I was right. 2 days later, I got a call from the local police. Mr. Bennett, we'd like you to come down to the station for a few questions regarding a domestic incident report. What incident? I asked, holding the phone so tight my knuckles cracked. A woman named Madison Bennett filed a complaint. Said she feared for her safety. That you've been stalking her. I had to laugh. She's the one who came to my office, my apartment, sent dozens of texts. The officer stayed neutral. That's why we're just asking questions for now. She was trying to flip the script. Frame me as the unstable ex, make me look like the monster in a story she wrote with her lies. Maybe to get sympathy or attention or some legal leverage. I called my lawyer the second I hung up. He already knew. We're going to file a counterstatement, he said. I'll send them every message, every video. She's walking on a legal landmine. We just need to make sure we don't step into her chaos. That night, as I reviewed everything with my lawyer, videos of her screaming at my door, messages from Rachel, and even Brittany confirming the truth, I realized something else. She wasn't fighting to win me back. She was fighting because she'd lost control. It was never about love. It was never even about betrayal. It was about power. She had once held me like a puppet in her perfectly manicured hands. And now that the strings were cut, she wanted to burn the whole stage. I didn't respond to her texts. I didn't call. I stayed quiet, calm, calculating. But then, one last spark. Carla, my assistant, knocked on my office door. Jason, there's something you need to see. She handed me a printed email chain. Madison had contacted a journalist. She was trying to leak a story about abuse, about toxicity, about being the wife of a narcissistic CEO who hid his money while making her beg for scraps. She's trying to paint herself as the victim, Carla said softly. Of course she is, I said, jaw tight. She knows public sympathy's her last currency. Should we respond? I thought about it. Then I smiled. No. Carla raised a brow. No. She's using fire. I'll use ice. Let her scream into the void. I'll keep building while she self-destructs. Because the truth was, Madison's story had no legs. No proof. Just drama and desperation. And the more she pushed it, the more cracks appeared in her mask. Everyone who knew her was already talking. Her ex-friends, former co-workers, even her own cousin, who emailed me saying, "You're better off without her." We all knew. I closed the file and leaned back in my chair. She could shout. She could lie. She could twist everything into knots. But I had something she'd never understand. Peace. The kind that comes when the chaos finally burns out. The kind that can't be faked. The kind that feels like freedom. It hit me when I was sitting alone at a rooftop cafe, same spot Madison and I once celebrated her birthday. Back then, I paid for a private violinist, her favorite wine, and a designer bag she casually mentioned once in passing. She had cried that night, said no one had ever made her feel so special. Now, I wondered if even those tears were fake. The waiter dropped off my coffee and smiled. "Anything else, Mr. Bennett?" "No," I said. "I've got everything I need." And it was true. For the first time in years, I wasn't performing anymore. I wasn't chasing her approval, fixing her mistakes, or trying to be the version of myself that wouldn't trigger her tantrums. I was just me, and I liked that guy. Still, the emotional wreckage she left behind wasn't easy to sweep up. Late nights were the worst. The house was too quiet, the bed too cold. Not because I missed her, but because habits take time to die. I had gotten so used to being wrapped in manipulation that silence felt suspicious. Some nights, I'd find myself scrolling through old photos. Fake smiles. Perfect lighting. Me holding her holding the phone. I looked happy, but now I knew I was just surviving. People ask what betrayal feels like. It's not just anger. It's like realizing the person you gave your soul to was drawing maps to your weaknesses the whole time. And when the moment came, they attacked exactly where it would hurt the most, because they knew. Madison knew how deeply I loved, and she used it like a weapon. I remembered the night I got sick, flu, high fever, could barely stand. She didn't bring soup, didn't stay with me. She went out with her friends. I heard her laughing on the phone that night, telling someone, "He'll be fine. He's not dying." That's when I should have known. But love makes excuses. Now, I was done excusing monsters just because I once kissed them goodnight. A week after her fake media stunt failed, I got a text from Brittany, another one of her ex-friends. "Brittany, thought you'd want to know. Madison's at it again. Said you ruined her life. Said she's moving out of state." I stared at the message for a while. "Good," I typed, then deleted it. What was the point? She was fading into the background now, becoming a name I used to flinch at, a ghost I no longer feared. There was a time I would have wanted revenge, would have wanted to watch her suffer, cry, beg for a second chance. But I didn't want that anymore. I didn't want anything from her. Because what do you take from someone who already lost the only thing that mattered, me? The old me would have never said that out loud. Would have thought it sounded arrogant or cold. But the truth? I was the prize. I was the loyal one. The provider. The man who stood beside her even when she twisted the knife and smiled while doing it. And I'd walked away with my integrity intact. She walked away with nothing but a trail of scorched bridges. That night, I stood in front of the mirror and said something I never had the guts to admit before. You were never the problem, Jason. She was. It felt like closing a chapter one never wanted to be part of. And for the first time in forever, I turned the page without fear. I saw her one last time. It wasn't planned. I wasn't lurking. I wasn't hoping. I was just living. It was a Sunday morning, crisp and quiet. I had gone out for coffee, just enjoying the kind of peace that comes when no one's lying to you anymore. The kind of peace that doesn't walk on eggshells or decode passive-aggressive comments over breakfast. And there she was, Madison, sitting alone at a corner table outside a cafe across the street. No friends. No man. No phone glued to her hand like in 4-drip of validation. Just a half-drunk cappuccino and eyes that looked tired. Not sad. Not angry. Just tired. She didn't see me right away. I watched her for a moment. Not out of nostalgia, just curiosity. It felt like seeing a museum exhibit. Something that once held meaning but was now just an artifact. She glanced up. Our eyes met. I expected a reaction, a smirk, a glare, maybe even tears. But she looked away. And that silence? That nothing? That was the real closure. I didn't walk over. I didn't wave. I didn't say a word. Because there was nothing left to say, I went home and deleted the last folder with her name on it. The one with screenshots, voice recordings, legal documents, my war chest of proof and pain. I didn't need it anymore. I had already won. Not in court. Not on social media. In life. Because I had my soul back. I stopped checking her socials weeks ago, but out of morbid curiosity, I looked one last time. Private. No new posts. The comments on her last picture, some brand collab disaster, were filled with questions. Where have you been? Are you okay? What happened with Jason? She hadn't answered a single one. And that silence? That wasn't power. That was shame. It was over. Not with a bang. Not with revenge. Not with some dramatic courtroom showdown. But with the quiet, undeniable reality that she had burned every bridge, and no one was coming to rescue her from the ashes. So what did I learn? You can't save someone who enjoys drowning. You can't love someone out of their toxicity. And no matter how loyal, how patient, how generous you are, if someone's broken inside, they will shatter you to feel whole. But here's what else I learned. You can rebuild. You can pick up the shattered parts of yourself and realize they weren't broken, they were dislocated, bent to fit someone else's shape. You can be a man who's been lied to, cheated on, humiliated, and still be proud of who you are. You can walk away from the fire with scars and still hold your head high. And if you're lucky, really lucky, you'll find peace that doesn't need applause. To the men reading this, pay attention. If she mocks your ambition, isolates you from friends, makes fun of your silence, your goals, your routine, she's not teasing. She's testing. Testing how much you'll tolerate before you lose yourself completely. Don't wait until you're in a hotel hallway, listening to your wife giggle in someone else's arms. Don't wait until you fire her from your company to realize you never should have hired her in your life in the first place. Leave before the poison becomes your normal. And if it's too late, then burn the bridge. Walk through the smoke. And don't look back. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you'll ever say is nothing at all.